Salvete. Over the past 4 videos, we've been gathering the keys to try and unlock Latin poetry and make reading it understandable and enjoyable. But I've been holding on to a little secret. These keys work for almost all poetic writing. Ginsberg and Shakespeare, Thomas and Keats, Basho, Pablo Neruda, Langston Hughes, and Rumi. Their work can be appreciated more deeply by using these keys to unlock them. I like to keep these lessons short in this series and not get too deep in the details. So if you'd like to learn more about any topic, I'll try to find some videos that do go into detail and leave a playlist in the description. Key number 5, figures of speech. One of the very first things I said in this series is that I could make an argument that syllables and rhythm are more important than meaning. I didn't mean to imply that meaning isn't important. Obviously it is. It's the entire reason that we write anything. Perhaps I was being a little hyperbolic. I could have crafted my words a little bit more carefully. Or maybe it was all an elaborate setup to talk about key 5, figures of speech. Most forms of poetry require that the poet choose their words and or the order of the words very carefully. Maybe it's because the meter restricts them, or the format of the verse. Just making sure words fit into a framework doesn't make for good poetry, though. Writers have a massive selection of literary devices that they can use to manipulate ordinary words into works of art. This list is massive, and I don't want this video to go on too long. It's already going to be probably the longest one I've done so far. So I'm only going to focus on the figures of speech that are the most common that we encounter in Latin poetry in my classroom. All right, that is enough of the preamble. Let's get to it. Alliteration is the repetition of similar sounds in 2 or more words. Usually, but not always, the first sound of the word. Alliteration comes in 2 different flavors. There's something called consonance and something called assonance. Consonance is when there's an alliteration with the consonant sounds. Notice the repeating M and P sounds in this line. Vasto cum memore montis, it mare proruptum, et pelago premit arva sonanti. Virgil uses the M sounds, cum memore montis, et mare proruptum. The word memore has to do with sounds. And so he's using the sound of the word to mimic the sound that he's trying to evoke, using the repetition of the M sounds to mimic the rushing of the wind and the waves. Memore montis, it's called an onomatopoeia. Oh, it's not on my list. I can't talk about it. Consonance has to do with consonants. So assonance has to do with vowels. So assonance is the alliteration of vowel sounds. So here we go. Here's another line with O sounds throughout. Amisos longo socio sermone requerant. Personification gives human thoughts or feelings or emotions to non-human things. As in Emily Dickinson's, the heart wants what it wants, or else it does not care. Well, hearts don't want, nor do they care. Hearts pump blood. We see it again here in Latin. Illa navis ad terram fugit et portus se condidit alto. The ship ran to shore and plunged into the deep harbor. Ships don't run. Giving human traits to non-human things is just something that we do. The clouds look angry. The city never sleeps. It's a way to make sense of the world. People work with intention, so giving intention to everything else is just the next step. It connects objects to us on a deeper level. Apostrophe is what we call it when an author speaks to the audience, or to someone who isn't there, or who can't respond, or when the author addresses something as if it were capable of understanding. Here's an example where the writer is addressing the paper he's writing on. Poetae tenero meo sodali, velem caecilio, papairi dicas veronum veniat, novi relinquens coimi monia larumque litus. I wish for you, paper, to tell the gentle poet my friend Caecilius to come to Verona, leaving the walls of Novum Comum, and the shore of Larius. A little bit of a personification, too, to assume that the paper can say it. We got a little 2-for-1 going on here. Apostrophe is Greek for turning back or turning away, and it breaks the narrative flow. Sometimes we use it to provide commentary, and so it's actually more popular in theater. Breaking the fourth wall, for instance, is a form of apostrophe. We come to metaphor and simile. These are similar. They're both figures of speech that are used to make comparisons. The difference between them is usually reduced to saying that similes make comparisons using the words like or as. Those little words make a lot of difference, though. So if we compare the two sentences, she was tall like a tree, towering over her classmates, has a different feeling when we say she was a tall tree, towering over her classmates. They give different visuals. Well, this is another thing that humans just do all the time. The point is to approach a subject from a new angle and to see something in a different way. Comparisons of things that don't obviously have a connection can give us deeper appreciation and understanding. So not only is the girl tall, but the metaphor can give us more unspoken information depending on the tree that you imagine. She tough like an oak? Flexible like a willow? Metonymy is a little hard to explain. Metonymy is the substitution of a word for a related word. So when we want to talk about, say, the president, for instance, instead of using his name or saying the president, we might refer to the office of the president, or we might even say the White House. This kind of wordplay, it can really strain what we think of as related words. So here's a Latin example. Gemina teguntur lumina nocte. His lights are covered with twin night. Here the poet uses the word lights, substituting it for eyes. His eyes are covered with twin night. Also, I guess we get another one, night, for darkness. Metonymy is useful for the same reasons as metaphor. It's all about trying to observe a topic from a new angle. Specifically, by straining associations, an author can add layers of meaning and challenge us to notice the unnoticed. Ellipsis is the omission of obvious words, or when you leave out parts of a sentence, or you leave out parts of a narration of an event. So when we're writing in prose, we typically use the 3 dots to take the place of the thing that is missing. This allows the reader to use their imagination to fill in the missing details. In Latin poetry, this often pops up in perfect passive verbs and infinitives. The auxiliary verb esse will drop away. So, for example, we have Nulla potest mulier tantum se dicere amatum, vere quantum a me lesbia matem est. Well, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We have ourselves an indirect statement, but we don't have an infinitive. Well, we do, actually. The infinitive is amatum esse. Just the esse part of it is gone. No woman can say truthfully that she was loved as much. Syncope is similar to ellipsis, but instead of dropping a word, it's dropping letters within a word. So in Latin poetry, there are really common words that this will affect. You'll see it in perfect tenses more than anything. Actually, you'll see it in the third person plural perfect more than anything. The arunt will often short to ere, which is a little unfortunate because it makes it look like an infinitive, so it's not easy to spot. For instance, amaverant will shorten to amavere. So here's an example in Latin. Dicebas quandam solum te nosse catolum. The word nosse here is actually the perfect infinitive novisse. Like I was saying before, they can be hard to spot, right? They lose the endings that we have tried so hard to learn. A good textbook or a good teacher can help you with this. Hyperbaton. The unusual separation of an adjective from its noun. That's what I remember being taught, at least. But when doing research for this video, I've come to find that hyperbaton has way more to it. It's generally regarded as a flip in word order. Latin relies on word endings to make meaning, so it's not so weird to separate nouns and adjectives. Hyperbaton pulls them really far away, though. Totem ut te faciunt fabile nasum. The word totem and nasum grammatically go together, but look how far away they are. There's a lot of stuff in the middle there. This can be really effective in making word pictures. Maybe the sentence is about, I don't know, feeling sad about missing someone far away. Well, then we can pull the words far away from each other to match that emotion. Speaking of word pictures, I've saved, in my opinion, the best for last. Chiasmus and synchesis. Both of these are arrangements of two pairs of words, usually two pairs of noun-adjective words. A chiasmus is often described as a reversal of a pattern. I don't like that. I like to think of it more as bookending. One pair of words encompasses the second pair. It looks like this pattern here. A, B, B, A. Rumoresque senum serveriorum omnes. Grammatically, rumores and omnes go together. They are circling the B noun adjective, senum serveriorum. A synchesis gives you an alternating AB pattern. Saevae memorem eunonis ab iram. Grammatically, saevae and eunonis go together, and memorem and iram go together. Poets don't just use these for the sake of being different. Okay, well, some might do that, but good poets don't use these for the sake of being different. Good poets use the syntax of Latin grammar to their advantage. Grammatically, the genitive adjective saevae modifies the genitive noun eunonis, of wicked Juno, and the accusative memorem goes with the accusative iram, unforgetting wrath. But the audience hears them as they're spoken, in order. Cruel, unforgetting Juno. Virgil gives us so much with this placement. By association, we can get a wicked mind. By association, we can get an unforgetting Juno. And by syntax, we get a wicked Juno and unforgetting wrath. The sad thing is that there isn't any real way to appreciate this wordplay in an English translation. All that nuance that Virgil builds up with the synchesis, all of it's lost. All right, now I'm sad. Learn Latin and read Virgil. The poor guy never thought his work was good enough. The story goes he begged his friends to burn his manuscript while he was on his deathbed. Thank heavens they didn't listen. It's amazing work. Really, learn Latin, read Virgil. All right, time for your test. Hopefully you've been paying attention. Here's some lines of poetry. What figures of speech is the author using? Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if someone gently rapping at my chamber door. 'Tis some visitor, I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, only this, and nothing more. Here we find alliteration and just a tiny little syncope in the word 'tis. But tree, I have seen you taken and tossed, and if you have seen me when I slept, you have seen me when I was taken and swept, and all but lost. That day she put our heads together, fate had her imagination about her, your head so much concerned with outer, mine with inner weather. Good. Nice job, Frost. Here we've got personification. If you said apostrophe, it's not, because he didn't suddenly switch to addressing the tree. It was always the thing he was addressing from the start. Fair is foul, and foul is fair, hover through the fog and the filthy air. got alliteration, and, did you notice, a chiasmus. This said, his watery eyes he did dismount, whose sights till then were levelled on my face, each cheek a river running from a fount, with brinish current downward flowed apace. That one's hard to hear in English. It's easy to see, it's hard to hear, because that's just how we talk. Here we've got syncope, and just a little bit of alliteration. When earthquakes swallow or when tempests sweep, towns to one grave hold nations to the deep. Oh, that's so good. Here we got a synchesis. So that list, that's all I wanted to get through. There are a ton more. Things that I'd love to talk about. Puns and irony, rhetorical questions, paradox, hyperbole. But I might do that later. Maybe not. I don't know. You can look up these lists yourself if you really want to. Hey, let me know if you want me to cover them. I don't know. All right. I guess that's it. Bye. What our author is doing up here, though, well, he's putting a lot of stuff inside of his nose. So that's weird. It's too weird.